Welcome everybody to the Realberg Experience, podcast for creative individuals from all walks of life. We talking to rap stars, politicians, photographers, you name it. Maintain and entertain, I bet the show gon' get famous. So go and take a seat and let the people get to meet the innovative individual that you will be. Let's go.
Welcome everybody to the Realberg Experience, the podcast for creative individuals from all walks of life. I'm your host, DP, and today we welcome a special guest coming to us. Where you from, my friend? From Miami?
DP, yeah, man. Was raised out in West Dade, so the Tamiami Lakes area.
West Dade.
So yeah, 137th more or less in Broadway, 13441 Southwest 25th Street. That's where I grew up as a kid.
So coming to us from Miami, Florida, representative for the Democratic Nominee, State Senate Javier Fernåndez. Welcome, my friend. How
Good
you
to be
doing
with you,
today?
man. Good morning to you. Good morning.
Man, so what's it like growing up in Miami, man?
You know, probably not too dissimilar to many other places, man.
Yeah.
You know, we grew up in a neighborhood that, when I was a kid, was kind of the middle of nowhere. My dad was a Vietnam vet, so bought that house with a VA loan, and that was our first home. You know, we had lived in a couple of apartments before then, so I remember being 7. It was a pretty special moment to kind of come into the house. And at that time, that part of Dade County was just, was brand new. So you had a bunch of farms in the surrounding area. And over time, it's just become, suburb after suburb, kind of further west and south, and just a part of anywhere else America, I guess. Pretty typical place. A lot of, at the time, young professional couples kind of getting started there. Still a very working class neighborhood. To this day, my mom still lives in the house. And, it's, 1,500 square feet, 4 kids, mom. Got a little tight sometimes. We got on each other's nerves, but we had fun and a lot of special memories there.
Yeah, so how did you get into politics? Was it something that you always had interest in?
I stumbled into this world. I've got a good friend from high school, Alfredo Mesa, who I can blame for my misadventures in political life. I've always been interested in government, and he had been involved since high school with a guy who had become a city commissioner and a county commissioner at a young age, and eventually our mayor, Alex Pinellas, became one of his chief political aides. And I had come back to Miami from college, and he always wanted me to go work with him, and for some reason I resisted doing it. And eventually in about 2000 I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with myself that year, and thought about volunteering on a campaign. I went to check out a guy who was running for mayor in 2001 for the city of Miami, named Manny Diaz. And Alfredo made the introduction. And that kind of just started me on that path. I went to a couple of events, didn't get too involved with the campaign, actually ran a marathon that year instead.
Awesome.
And but after he won, I got a call, and they wanted to hire somebody who could write and who could serve as their policy aide, policy chief, and so that's the job I took. And it kind of put me in the middle of looking at issues I had no understanding of all across the spectrum, right? I've been working in affordable housing advocacy before then, both in Miami and in Washington on affordable housing related policy. And so that put me in the mix on a whole bunch of different issues, and it was a baptism by fire. Never been in politics before. Had to mind my P's and Q's, but it was an amazing experience. I took a pay cut to do it. I was happy to do it. It's a job that I would have done probably if I could have for the rest of my life, making that amount of money. Been very, very excited to do it. Just every day was a day to kind of, you could, after being in the nonprofit sector and wanting to push policy and wanting to make a change, you finally have a platform with a leader who, even I was 26 at the time, little young staff, and if you had a good idea, he gave you plenty of runway to do it. So a lot of stuff I had been working on in the nonprofit sector kind of put into action through the city and that infrastructure, and hopefully made a difference there.
So you mentioned affordable housing. Is that one of the big things that you're running on?
Yeah, look, for me, it's a passion issue. I've been involved in that space. I say that I'm a frustrated affordable housing developer, right? In my practice now, I represent them and also represent other investors in real estate. But my passion's always been around. I always thought if I could figure out how to finance affordable housing, and structure, do those deals, I could do anything, right, in real estate. And so, because they're complicated, and there's a huge need. And if you can make money while doing good, that's to me the best thing. So it's certainly a issue that speaks to me. For a lot of communities, it's the first investment that begins to kind of turn the tide and change a place in a really positive way. Give people pride in neighborhoods and places that they've lost. So I've always seen it as a way that, a very important investment because it's transformative in terms of not only for the family that's being impacted by the unit, but for the neighborhood, right? It changes the soul not just of the family, but of a community in many cases, right? So we can see progress and we can measure it in something tangible. So I'm excited about it in Tallahassee. Definitely will be working on that issue. I've worked on it already. Very proudly authored a bill on the topic, really with the idea of allowing smaller developers, people like you and me who don't have a lot of capital but want to build 4 or 5 units, an incentive to do it without having to get too deeply embedded with the government. 'Cause that's one of the hard parts about it, is chasing those public dollars to make it work. So we've got a proposal out there. Hopefully it'll get heard in the Senate when I get elected in November.
With that being said, what are some of the other things that you're passionate about?
Yeah, so my entire career before becoming a lawyer was focused on transforming communities, right? And
so wait, let's stop.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
You mentioned lawyer.
Yeah.
You started from a lawyer?
No, man, I came to law, went back to law school at 31, 32 years of age. I'm 45 now. And so we started out working mostly in the nonprofit sector at Legal Services. I kind of put together with an attorney there a trade association of nonprofit affordable housing developers, trying to represent their interests, their needs, and we weren't allowed to do any direct engagement with the government because of the lobbying restrictions on that organization. Mm-hmm. So I was a staff member who would prep them, and then the principals of those nonprofits would go and meet with city commissioners, county commissioners, state officials, trying to figure out how they can get more resources to do more housing in communities even across the district I'm running for right now. So Florida City, Homestead, Naranja, Princeton, Gould. Those were target communities in the district that we were trying to promote some investment in, and that worked out really well. I really loved that experience. I did that on a contract for a year, and then kept broadening my experience in that area. I went up to Washington and worked for a group called Local Initiatives Support Corporation, which they finance a lot of the projects, a lot of the same nonprofit projects in communities across the country. And so went onto that national platform and just learned more about issues like predatory lending and how we rob equity out of minority communities, and get a sense of what was happening nationally beyond just South Florida. What communities were kind of leading the way in more sophisticated approaches to transforming places and bridging the gaps. I mean, we've got huge wealth gaps in this country between our white brothers and sisters and our African American and Hispanic brothers and sisters, and that's not healthy over the long term for a democracy or a society. Everybody's got to feel like they've got an equal shot at that opportunity. So those are the issues that really interest me. And when I went to work for the mayor after that kind of tour in the nonprofit world, that was my portfolio. So my portfolio was anything that we could do to lift people out of poverty, essentially. And that's what I kind of focused on, and we created a whole initiative and agenda that, I can tell you how has it been? 18 years later, is still in place. Not 18 years later. We left in 2009, so 11 years later is still a program that's alive and kicking because we embedded it in a department. It's called Access Miami, and so that was an effort to help people access, benefits of all kinds, that they were entitled to already. Using the earned income tax credit, which is a refund you get as a hook to get people engaged in a conversation about changing their financial lives, right? Getting them some financial literacy training, getting them to use that, defer spending that money to invest in housing or starting a small business, and then marrying that desire and idea with the opportunity, right? Getting them access to credit. So we started a micro loan program with the church and a nonprofit that we jointly invested in bringing into the community. And so those are the kind of things that I've always really enjoyed. And, after 10 wonderful years in practice, I'm still practicing. It's like, as a state lawmaker, It's a part-time gig supposedly, but it certainly pays that way. So keeping a roof over the family's head requires that I practice. But and I've enjoyed that, and it certainly has given me a better perspective on what the private market needs to make things work. But my passion is always having a voice on those other issues, and so my running for office was really just an effort to kind of reclaim my voice that way and bring my perspective to bear on a lot of the issues I think that we are struggling with as a community, as a state.
Well, who was your opponent? I have no idea.
Yeah, no, her, believe it or not, someone I know my entire life.
Really?
We went to elementary school together.
That's so
And then
funny.
she went to my sister's school. Yeah, Miami's a small community in
We
many
were just
respects.
talking about that yesterday, though,
Yeah,
how
everything comes back full
around.
circle. Yeah, we're talking about LeBron, right? So we can talk some basketball later. But
Wow.
but yeah, no, Anna Marie Rodriguez, she's a nice human being. She's just run for the district, and her priorities, her issues are not aligned, I think, with the needs of the district. But she's a great person. I just think I'm the better candidate. I think I'm the better prepared person to do this job right now. And we need leadership that's going to be independent-minded. The one criticism I'll make of her is that she has been someone who's always following somebody else, whether at the city council that she served on or in leadership in Tallahassee. I think what we need more of in our politics is people are going to stand on their own 2 feet, push back on leadership, to make sure we're doing what's best for our distinct communities. And so that's something I think that where I have a strong advantage.
How are you running your campaign this year? Is it like with the COVID and whatnot? I know
Man, it's been strange. This is my 3rd campaign in 3 years. I ran in a special election in 2018, and I had to run 3 weeks later, filed and keep the seat for 2 years. And so it's my 3rd one, and those 2 are very different. We had a lot more personal engagement, which frankly I think is where I have an advantage. I mean, I just like talking to people, being in their space, having those really organic conversations where people can get to see how you think, what you're about. It's really hard to recreate that, in a COVID world. So we've been doing a lot more digital events, and those events are good. I mean, they're the best you can do, but they lack some of the same dynamism and energy. And you go into an event to see me or get to know about me is also an opportunity to meet somebody else, right? You can't recreate that additional interaction on a Zoom platform or any other platform that we have right now. So a lot's lost, right now. We're getting back on doors recently, just talking to people, dropping literature, knock on the door, step back, and we kind of, some people want to shake hands, and I will shake their hand, but I'll put some hand sanitizer on right afterwards and move on to the next house, because you don't want to be spreading the disease. We don't know if we're carriers. That's the scary part about this thing. So we're trying to be smart. We've been more reliant on paid communications than we have in the past. That means TV, radio, digital, mail, direct mail to people's doors. That's kind of been the main way of communicating. And then, I'm begging love to come on shows like this to talk.
Oh, man, I love to have you.
So
Sure.
I appreciate that opportunity. These kind of platforms also provide a way for us to hopefully connect with some folks as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you like to do on your off time, man? Like, do you have any off time?
So
or is it
not
just
as much as
all
I
work?
used to. I mean, I'm not someone who likes to sit around and do nothing, right, my whole life. So I used to run quite a bit. I've always been a sports junkie. Grew up playing football as a kid since I was 7, and played into college. And then basketball, probably my real passion sport.
Yeah.
But I was a little too small to play that competitively. But yeah, as I get older, the body's breaking down a bit, so I can't do that stuff as much anymore. And I've deferred some maintenance, frankly, which I have to take care of after the selection. So right now, not doing as much on the physical side. But a lot of reading, spending time with my wife and kids, who I don't get to spend enough time with. My son loves sports, so we got a fantasy football team that we kind of co-general manage, and we're doing pretty well this year. So hopefully that keeps up. Yeah, we got a good scoring outfit this year. And
who you got?
Man, we've got probably we picked up Cam. He's been phenomenal. We've got Jones from the Packers. We've got who's got wide receiver now? We picked up Jonathan Taylor, who's a rookie at Indianapolis. I picked up Dobbs from Baltimore as well. So we've got a lot of young running backs, and then we've got a tight end, Jonnu Smith from Tennessee we picked up as well, who's had a phenomenal couple first weeks. And Zach Ertz is our other tight end. And I'm trying to remember who we have a wide receiver, man. My son drafted most of the wide receivers. I don't remember. But yeah, we got a good solid squad this year, and they've been putting up points here the first couple of weeks. Hopefully that continues. Man, I grew up loving the Hurricanes, loving the Heat. Really, my first passion was the Dolphins. It's gotten hard to watch the last 20 years. But the
one thing I know is a lot of my watchers are like Dolphin fans for sure. They're gonna love to hear this.
Well, no, it's all right, man. Look, it is what it is. I was one of those people who was a zealot, and I told my wife when we got married, the one thing she had to understand, if the Dolphins ever went to a Super Bowl, and I had to mortgage my house to buy tickets to go, there could be no resistance, right? So she made that promise, and we signed up to marry her. So that's certainly that was the one precondition to getting married. But so we'll hopefully that'll happen soon. I'm hoping in my lifetime we'll get back to the big game here. Certainly.
Did they win the other day? They played the other
day. They won Thursday,
yeah,
man. I was surprised.
Hard,
they look good. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm high on this coach. Not as high on the general manager, but I think he Brian Flores worked a miracle at the end of last season with the roster he had. Getting to play the full schedule and play hard and win, that many games down the stretch. It was, I thought, a really impressive coaching job. So I think we're in good shape there. I just don't know from a personnel standpoint whether we're making always some of the best decisions, but we'll see. You got to give these guys a shot because nothing's ever obvious the first year necessarily, right? Sometimes it takes a couple years.
You guys were good for like that first 8 games. You were good to come out a strong 8-0.
Yeah.
And then it just.
Yeah, don't tell me that, man. Come on. I know you're a New York fan.
Yeah, I'm a Giants
fan.
See, the thing about the Giants is we can always talk because we got them.
You got a few rings lately. Yeah. So I can't say very much. So thank you for that. Thank you for reminding me. It's only been like 40 years of pain, but that's okay. That's okay. You're the man.
It's no thing. Dan Marino, number one.
Dan Marino, he is forever, man. That's
GOAT.
When he retired, my childhood ended. So.
Oh, Dan the man. So you're not running anymore? None of that?
No, man. So we're like I said, unfortunately not.
Oh.
We did a lot of walking the last campaign, so I dropped like 25 pounds doing that every day. We've not done as much walking this time because of the COVID situation. We're out walking again, talking to people. So hopefully lose a few lbs there. And I mean, my days are basically I get up, I do some legal work, we get the kids straight for school. I got to go into the campaign office, make phone calls to donors because money is the lifeblood of campaigns, unfortunately. So we do that, and then typically we got a series of events, interviews, evening events. I'll do some canvassing for at least 2 to 3 hours every weekday. We're gonna go knock on doors for 4 hours after we get done here in Key West. So that's my days, man, right now. And then at night I try to come home and early enough to catch dinner with the family. We eat later than most people. So an 8 o'clock dinner or so, and then settle them in and do some more work or respond to texts, or phone messages. The game. So
definitely,
it's busy right now. I'm looking forward to November 3rd, so we get this race over with, and then November 4th maybe taking a breath. But I don't think we're gonna get much rest in November. We got a lot of issues that have been pending. Since this pandemic started, and unfortunately we've not gone into a special session as a legislature to deal with the budget mess we've got going on right now. And yesterday's executive order by the governor really worrisome to me because I think what we're not understanding is every moment is a chance to kind of build confidence in a brand for the state, and we're squandering that chance right now. We've had, relative to other places, a pretty good caseload. I mean, the reason people are coming to Key West is because they feel it's safe.
Yeah.
It's a good option to travel to. With eliminating the mask, penalties and not allowing communities to respond to local conditions by having like one standard for everybody, it makes me a little nervous. You know, I pray it works out because at the end of the day we want to pray for everyone's shared success here. But it makes me, someday I'll mark down because I think we're going to look back and we may end up regretting what we did for, I think, what was mostly politics, right? To help people feel like it's over, and it's not. Man, we're going to be living with this thing until we have a vaccine, and we got to figure out a way to live with it responsibly. Because if we don't, it's not just our health that's in jeopardy. I think as we learned, it's our economy that we put in peril as well.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, man.
Definitely.
But that, yeah, not a whole lot of fun right now, man. In terms
Yeah.
of, I'm not hanging. I got invited to some of my boys to go play around the golf next weekend. I said, can't do it, man. So you got to
Yeah.
give me another 4 weeks, and then we can start to monkey around out there. So.
You mentioned small businesses too.
Yeah.
Small businesses. Why is it so important for small businesses to be? What is it about the small business?
Well,
right
it's
now?
where folks like you and I
Well, I
that
know.
get started, right? So I'm a small business owner myself. I mean, I went from practicing at a major law firm to now essentially having my own practice with a few other lawyers, and it's not easy to do that. You take a risk. You put in my case, I'm offering services. I'm not buying stuff, but if you're selling stuff, you've got inventory. You're taking a huge risk that you're going to offer something that the marketplace wants, and far too often in places like Tallahassee, the interests of small business owners get put to the side for the interests of some of the larger corporations, and we saw that this year. I mean, we knew we were going to have a bad budget because of COVID. That was going to result in a lot of revenue being lost. I mean, we're losing $750 million a month in sales tax revenue at the peak of this thing, but we gave back $550 million to companies that probably did not need the money. Some of them did, no doubt, and we gave them a tax refund that in the middle of this thing. And by comparison, the you and me businesses, right, that need the credit, to kind of survive this thing, we made available $50 million in loans, right? Low interest loans, right? $50 million in loans sounds like a big number, but we had 30,000 companies apply for money. We helped 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
So that $550 million could have been spent, I think, to better use.
Yeah.
In terms of preserving jobs and preserving a huge source of people's wealth, particularly minority communities, because you don't see a lot of Fortune 500 CEOs that are African American or Hispanic, right? We're the anomaly in that world. So a lot of small businesses are the equity for communities like you and mine are in those businesses, right? That's what sponsors a local project or a local event. They put their name, they put their time, they put their energy beyond what they're doing in the workplace in our communities, and we can't lose sight of that. And so investing in them, I think, is really important because otherwise we're just kind of exacerbating, I think, a lot of the disparities that we already see in our society.
So what are some of the other reasons why people should get out and vote for you?
Look, man, there are a lot of good reasons. I think, number one, voting for me, you're probably going to vote for Joe Biden. You're probably going to vote for Clint Barris. Important to get out and vote. I think Democrats up and down the ballot, particularly in the state of Florida, where we need more balance in our governance. Right now, we've had 22 years of one-party rule, and it's going off the rails. I mean, It's going off the rails in terms of putting people behind a profit, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important for that reason. I think if you want someone who's going to bring energy and experience and roll up their sleeves and do the work, I've shown myself to be that kind of a member. And I'm not someone who tries to lead by always being out in front, right? I like to work with the folks in the community and empower them by virtue of sharing my platform, right? So I want to make sure that we're raising up other people and issues, and I've done that, I think, in my leadership role in my caucus today. We've got a cohort of really talented ladies that I serve with, women that are very distinguished. 12 of the 19 freshmen that I came into office with were women, and whenever we can, we want to push them out and make sure that they were getting their due, because we don't have in our chambers, female voices also speaking to issues from that perspective. We've had, our Republican counterparts, 26 new members in the class I came in with, 2 were women. So huge gender imbalance there, and it's good to see, them speak to issues of reproductive choice, of paid family leave, of economic issues, right, in the workplace, and bring that perspective that many of us men just don't understand, because we haven't lived those experiences as well. So I'm someone who's going to share the platform with other people, and who's going to do that with community as well. I mean, I've been talking to folks about issues in the Naranja, Princeton, Goulds area, for example, and just want to make sure that when we're elected, we put together it's not to be formal, but an informal advisory group of community leaders that, have lived in those communities their entire lives, understand the issues, have chosen to come back and live in those communities, notwithstanding they may have lived elsewhere for a while, and just use them as a resource in the community to kind of identify and make change. Because if I'm not sharing my platform with them, none of the transformational stuff we want to happen in neighborhoods across the district can occur. And lastly, I think, that's just part of being a good partner. And my job as a state legislator is not to impose, ideas on our local communities. It's really to lift up their needs and find them resources and eliminate obstacles to solve the challenges that we have here across the district. So in Monroe County, for example, climate change, one of the big problems we're going to have is funding. And we need a state government that's going to step up and provide matching dollars to build the infrastructure to make us more resilient, right, over the long term, so this community can continue to thrive, for decades to come. So that's the approach I'm going to take to the job. That's the approach I've already taken to it in the State House, and hopefully that's something that people can understand and get behind.
With that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Anything that you want to get out there before we close things out?
No, let me just say thanks to you again for the invitation, man.
Thank you.
And if people want to have a direct conversation with me, I'll share my cell phone number, which is 305-761-2274.
I would never.
It's the worst kept number secret in town. I leave it on every door that I knock on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. You're gonna see a lot of negative stuff about me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the game. And people can say what they want, but the truth is something else. So I try to leave my number. If people have a doubt, they want to call, they can, and we try to be responsive and have that direct communication. I think what people hear and what they see, they can make a better informed decision. If I can't see them, at least I want to talk to them. So that's how we try to do it. That's why we do it that way. But yeah, man, look, I appreciate the opportunity. Anyone out there got an idea, a project, I'm in the position I am because someone believed in me, fed my energy, fed my enthusiasm for some ideas, lifted me up. So if you've got a project out there you want to work on, would love to hear about it. Reach out to me. You can find me on social media at Elect Javier, the cell phone number, or you can email me at javierforflorida.com as well. And then lastly, one of the things I'd like to do in Tallahassee is make sure that we're bringing kids from the community up to experience the process, because what we don't see in our committee rooms at the staff level is a lot of black and brown faces sitting there, and we need those voices. We need that perspective in those rooms as well to kind of make sure that we're getting a policy that's fully reflective of the reality for people across the state. And so if you've got a young person who's in high school or above the age of 12 and wants to be a page or intern and come up for a week, when we win in November with all your help, give me a call. I'd love to get them up there and see, we can only do so many every year, but I want to make sure that those kids are coming from all across the district and from all walks of life, not just the privileged few that know somebody in the chamber who can give them that opportunity. So
that's awesome. I actually just heard of a kid that was into politics at a young age. I was like, wow. Yeah, definitely, man. It's good to know.
Yeah, no, there are those opportunities, and there are opportunities for folks who are going to school up there to intern with our office as well, or intern with our offices locally. So those were the experiences that allowed me to do this, and so I want to make sure we're paying that forward as well, and doing it in a way that's where we've got folks that represent every walk of life, black, brown, gay, straight, it doesn't matter. We want to make sure that everybody has access and has an opportunity to experience the process if that's their interest. So.
It's the way it should be, man. I mean, you got me. You know what I mean?
Sounds good.
I believe you. It's like, I think everybody should make their own informative decision. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, it seems like everything ties together. You definitely have the energy there. I can feel like, you can sense the goodness, the good person and whatnot, man. I think that's awesome, man. Definitely, man. You guys get out and vote. Yeah, November 3rd.
That's
Javier Fernåndez, man. Democratic nominee.
Ballots have gone out already. So if you voted, registered to vote by mail, you're probably getting your ballot this weekend. Make sure to mark my name. And lastly, I'll tell you, if you want to vote early voting starts October 19th. So you don't have to wait till Election Day. Get in early, vote early. Make sure your voice is heard. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys as always, man. I'm DP. It's the Realberg Experience. Javier
Thank you,
Fernåndez. Thank my special guest.
Thank you.
We out.